The night was colder than Nira had ever felt. She hugged her small child, Lumo, tightly against her chest, feeling the thin layers of their clothing do little to shield them from the biting wind. They had been walking for hours trying to find a place to stay. The streets were empty, the city quiet, except for the occasional rustle of a stray animal or the distant hum of streetlights. But this quiet gave no comfort. Nira had not come to this planet by choice. A storm had forced their ship to crash far from any safe landing, leaving her and Lumo stranded in a world that was strange and unfamiliar. Humans walked past them without noticing, rushing to their own homes oblivious to the tiny family huddled in shadows. Nira watched them with a mix of awe and fear. Humans were curious creatures, tall, fragile-looking, but capable of acts of kindness that she hoped to find tonight. Lumo, only 5 years old, rubbed his small hands together, shivering. His bright eyes were wide with fear and exhaustion, but he tried to smile for his mother. "Mama, I'm cold," he whispered in his soft, musical voice. Nira stroked his hair gently. "I know, little one. We will find shelter soon. Just a little longer." Her voice was calm, but inside panic clawed at her heart. She had seen humans offer help before. In old recordings she had secretly watched from her ship's database, but she did not know if they would help her, and even if they did, would they accept Lumo? Would they let them stay for more than just a night? The family rounded a corner and spotted a small abandoned building. Its windows were cracked, the door barely hanging on its hinges, but it was a place that could shield them from the wind. Nira's heart lifted slightly. "This will do for now," she whispered. She lifted Lumo into her arms and pushed the door open, careful not to make a sound. Inside, the air was damp and smelled faintly of old wood and dust. There were broken chairs, scattered papers, and a thin layer of grime on the floor. But it was shelter, and for now that was enough. Nira laid down a small blanket she had brought from her ship and set Lumo on it. She wrapped him in her coat, trying to transfer some of her own body heat to him. As she watched him fall into a fitful sleep, she thought about the days before they arrived. On their home planet, life had been simple and safe. Nira had spent her days tending to Lumo, teaching him the small things about life, about kindness, and about love. But that world had been destroyed by a sudden disaster, something she had not predicted, something that left her alone with only her child and memories of what had been. Now, on this strange planet, she felt small, fragile, and powerless, yet she could not let fear control her. She had to survive for Lumo's sake. She moved quietly around the room, searching for anything that could help them stay warm. Broken pieces of furniture, old cardboard, anything that could act as a barrier against the cold. She even took off her own coat at one point to use as a makeshift blanket, leaving herself exposed. Hours passed. Nira could hear the wind howling outside, rattling the broken windows. Each gust made her flinch. She wanted to cry, to scream, but she held it inside. Lumo needed her to be strong, and she could not let him see her despair. She hummed a soft tune, a lullaby from her planet, hoping it would soothe both him and herself. The night seemed endless. Every shadow made her anxious, every small sound made her heart race. She thought about the humans she had seen before, wondering if any of them would ever understand. Could they feel what it was like to be so alone, so vulnerable in a world that did not belong to you? Finally, a faint sound caught her attention, a soft, rhythmic tapping on the window. She froze, unsure if it was an animal or a human. Slowly, she approached and peered through the cracked glass. There, standing in the moonlight, was a figure. A human, a man. He seemed hesitant, kind eyes scanning the area as if deciding whether it was safe to approach. Nira's heart pounded. She stepped back, holding Lumo close. "Stay behind me, little one," she whispered. The man did not knock. He simply called out gently, "Hello? Are you okay?" Nira hesitated. Her voice was broken, accented, unlike anything the man would understand. We need warm," she said, her words halting. She hoped he would understand the meaning behind them. The man looked surprised but did not retreat. "You're cold, aren't you? Come inside, it's not safe out here at night." Nira wanted to run. Humans could be dangerous, but she also knew that staying out in the cold would not be safe either. With a small nod, she stepped forward, holding Lumo tightly. The man opened the door wider, letting them in. Inside, the warmth was immediate and almost painful to her frozen senses. The man brought blankets and a small lamp, giving light and comfort that they had not felt in days. Nira could feel tears forming, but she blinked them back. This was the first act of kindness they had received since arriving on this planet. She did not know if it would continue, but for now it was enough. She whispered to Lumo. "See, little one? People can be good. We are not alone." Lumo smiled weakly, cuddling into her chest. For the first time in hours, his small hands stopped trembling. Nira felt a small spark of hope ignite within her chest. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could survive this world together. As the night deepened, Nira sat near the small fire the man had made, her eyes on her sleeping child. Outside, the wind continued to howl, but inside there was warmth, light, and a sense of safety. And for Nira, that was more than she had dared to hope for in a long time. The night stretched quietly, but Nira could not sleep. She sat beside Lumo, who had curled up under the blankets, his small body still trembling slightly from the cold outside. The warmth from the lamp and the blankets was comforting, but her mind was restless. She kept thinking about what tomorrow would bring. Humans seemed kind, but she could not be sure. Would they let them stay longer? Would they be forced to leave? The man who had helped them, Eli, was sitting nearby reading a small book he had found in the abandoned house. He noticed Nira's worried eyes and closed the book gently. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice soft and calm. Nira looked at him, her eyes reflecting both fear and gratitude. She wanted to explain everything, where she came from, why she was here, how dangerous it had been for her and Lumo, but she did not have the right words. Instead, she whispered, "We need safe place. Night is cold and long." Eli nodded as if he understood perfectly. "You can stay tonight. No one will harm you here. You are safe." Nira hesitated. The words were simple, but they carried a weight she had not expected. She had been wandering for days, cold, hungry, and afraid, and now a human was offering her protection. For a moment she felt a spark of hope, fragile but real. She looked at Lumo, sleeping peacefully, and felt a wave of love and determination. She had survived so much to protect him, and she would not stop now. Carefully, she moved closer to Eli and whispered something she had never dared to say before. "If I warm your bed, may we stay?" Eli blinked, startled. The words were strange, slightly awkward, but he understood the meaning behind them. He looked at Nira, then at the small child sleeping beside her, and saw the fear, the exhaustion, and the hope in her eyes. Without hesitation, he smiled gently. "Yes," he said simply. "You may stay. Both of you." Nira's chest tightened. She had not expected acceptance so easily. She nodded silently, gratitude filling her heart. That simple word, yes, was more than she had hoped for. That night, for the first time since arriving on Earth, she felt that someone truly cared. They settled closer to the small lamp that gave warmth to the room. Nira pulled a thin blanket around herself and Lumo, and Eli offered an extra pillow and blanket to make them more comfortable. The room smelled faintly of wood smoke, a comforting reminder of home for humans, though alien to Nira. It was enough to make her feel that the world might not be entirely unkind. As the night deepened, Eli began to speak softly. "Where are you from?" he asked, curiosity gentle and non-threatening. Nira hesitated. Should she tell him everything? Would he understand? She decided to share a little. Far place. Not here, strange. Crash, we walk. Long time." Eli nodded slowly. "I see. You must be tired." "Yes," Nira whispered. "Very tired. Hungry. Cold." Her words were fragmented, but they carried truth. Eli moved quietly to a small cupboard and brought out some bread and water he had found in the abandoned house. He handed it to Nira, who accepted it with trembling hands. Lumo stirred at the smell of food and opened his eyes, sleepy but alert. Nira helped him eat slowly, careful not to let him choke in his exhaustion. As Lumo finished eating, he smiled at Eli, a small gesture, but one that spoke volumes. Eli smiled back, and for a moment the room felt safe, warm, and almost like home. Nira felt a quiet hope growing inside her. Perhaps they had found a place where they could survive, where humans could understand kindness and care. After Lumo had eaten and returned to sleep, Nira spoke again, softly, almost to herself. "Humans, kind, may be safe, yes?" Eli heard her and nodded. "Yes, some humans are kind. Some understand what it is to be lost, to be afraid." Nira studied his face. His eyes were calm, patient, and kind. For the first time, she did not feel fear when looking at a human. She felt trust. She realized that this night, this moment, could change everything. They could have a future even on this strange planet. The wind outside howled again, rattling the broken windows. Nira held Lumo closer, feeling his small body relax against hers. She whispered a soft lullaby from her home planet, the notes carrying in the quiet room. Eli listened silently, sensing the deep love and care in her voice. It was a melody he had never heard before, yet it touched something deep in his heart. Time seemed to slow. The world outside, with its dangers and fears, felt distant. Inside there was warmth, safety, and a small family beginning to find hope. Nira felt a new strength growing inside her. She had faced so much, yet she had not given up. And now, with a human showing kindness, she felt that maybe, just maybe, they could survive and even thrive in this world. Eli broke the silence gently. "You know," he said softly, "it takes courage to ask for help. Not everyone can do it, but you did, and that shows. You are strong." Nira looked at him surprised. She had never thought of herself as strong. She had only tried to survive, to protect Lumo. But his words made her realize that surviving, asking for help, and trusting someone, these were acts of strength, not weakness. The night grew deeper and sleep began to creep into Nira's tired eyes. She glanced at Lumo, sleeping peacefully, and felt a quiet relief. They were safe for now. They were warm, and they were not alone. Before closing her eyes, she whispered again, this time to Lumo. "See, little one, we can find help. We can find kindness. We can stay." For Lumo, this night was more than just warmth and food. It was the first time he had felt safe since leaving their home. He dreamed of a world where humans could be friends, where his mother's soft lullabies would be answered with smiles instead of fear. And in that dream, he held on to hope, a fragile, shining hope that tomorrow could be better. As the fire flickered in the small room and the wind howled outside, a quiet promise formed in Nira's heart. Tomorrow they would face the world again, but tonight had already changed everything. For the first time, she understood that one act of kindness, one simple yes, could transform fear into hope, despair into courage. And that night, in the warmth of a stranger's home, an alien mother and her child found something they had almost lost forever: trust, safety, and the beginning of a new life. Morning came slowly, spilling soft sunlight through the cracked windows of the small abandoned house. Nira woke first, careful not to disturb Lumo, who was still curled up under the blankets. She stretched, feeling the ache in her muscles from the long night and the cold that had seeped into her bones. Yet there was a warmth in her heart she had not felt for a long time, a sense of hope that lingered from the kindness Eli had shown. Nira gently shook Lumo awake. "Time to wake, little one," she whispered. "Sun is here." Lumo opened his eyes sleepily, rubbing them, but a small smile spread across his face when he saw his mother. "Mama, we are safe?" "Yes," she replied softly. "For now, safe." They ate a small breakfast together, Eli quietly bringing water and some bread he had found. There were no words about what had happened the night before, but the silence between them was full of understanding. Nira could see that Eli's kindness was not just temporary. He genuinely cared. That realization made her feel stronger. After breakfast, Nira realized that staying in one place, even a safe place, would not be enough. She needed to understand this world better, to find resources and perhaps even a small community that could help them survive. But she also knew that venturing out would be risky. Humans often feared what they did not understand, and Nira and Lumo were clearly different. Eli noticed her worried look. "You're thinking about going outside, aren't you?" he asked gently. Nira nodded. "Yes, must find food, safe place. For us, but humans not always." "Kind," Eli smiled reassuringly. "I will help you. You don't have to do this alone." The day passed with careful planning. Nira and Eli prepared a small bag of essentials: water, some food, and a few blankets. Lumo held her hand tightly, his small fingers gripping hers as if drawing strength from her courage. When they finally stepped outside, the world seemed larger and more intimidating than ever. People walked by, some curious, some avoiding eye contact. Nira felt their stares, whispers brushing past her ears. She wanted to shrink back, to hide. But Lumo's tiny hand reminded her of her purpose. She had to be strong. They moved slowly, keeping to quieter streets. Nira noticed things that fascinated her: the sound of children laughing in a nearby park, the smell of bread baking from a small bakery, the soft rustle of leaves in the trees. Despite her fear, she felt a strange connection to this world. There was life here, beauty, and the possibility of kindness. Over the next few days, Nira and Lumo faced many small challenges. Sometimes humans were suspicious, giving them strange looks or whispering behind their backs. Other times they encountered obstacles like locked doors, streets too crowded, or rain that soaked them to the bone. But each challenge brought them closer to understanding this world, and to building trust with those who helped them. Eli continued to be a guiding presence. He taught Nira small things about human life, how to ask for help, how to explain simple needs, and how to stay safe when dealing with strangers. Nira learned quickly, amazed at how patient Eli was and how much he believed in their survival. Lumo, meanwhile, began to adapt in his own way. He was curious and playful, asking questions about everything he saw. His innocence often softened the hearts of humans they met. Children would smile at him, some even sharing small toys or treats. Nira realized that her child's kindness and openness could be a bridge between her and the humans she feared. One afternoon, they met a woman named Clara, who ran a small shop. Lumo's excitement over a colorful toy caught her attention. "He looks hungry," Clara said, smiling at Nira. "Would you like some food?" Nira hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, thank you." Clara prepared a simple meal and offered it to them with a warm smile. For the first time, Nira felt that humans could truly see her and Lumo, not just as strangers but as beings deserving care and respect. Despite these small victories, life was not easy. Nira often stayed awake at night, thinking about the dangers that still lay ahead. What if someone discovered their origins? What if humans who feared difference tried to harm them? She could not allow fear to control her, yet it lingered at the edges of her mind. Eli noticed her worry. "You're carrying too much alone," he said one evening as they rested. "You don't have to." "We're in this together." Nira's heart swelled with gratitude. "Thank you for everything," she whispered. "We trust you." Eli shook his head gently. "You don't have to thank me. Trust goes both ways. You've shown courage, and I've seen that your heart is good. That's enough." In those quiet moments, a bond formed stronger than words. Nira realized that trust could be built slowly, with kindness and patience. And in this bond, she found a strength she had never known before. A strength born not only from survival, but from connection, hope, and love. The days turned into a small rhythm. Nira and Lumo would venture out cautiously, return to the small abandoned house with Eli's guidance, and slowly begin to feel that they belonged somewhere. Lumo laughed more, playing with small toys or chasing leaves in the wind. Nira began to smile more, her heart lighter, her steps firmer. One evening, after a long day of walking and exploring, Nira and Eli sat outside, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Lumo slept peacefully nearby, exhausted but content. "You see," Eli said softly, "the world can be harsh, yes, but it can also be full of beauty. You just have to find it." Nira looked at him, a faint smile on her lips. "Yes, I see, but humans, still, scared of different." Eli nodded. "Some are, but others, like me, we choose kindness. And kindness can change everything." Nira's eyes filled with tears, tears of relief, hope, and understanding. She had thought survival was all she could hope for, but now she saw that life could offer more: trust, friendship, and a sense of belonging. As night fell, Nira tucked Lumo into bed and whispered softly, "Tomorrow, we try again. But tonight, we are safe. We are not alone." And in that quiet room, with warmth and care surrounding them, the alien mother and her child felt something they had almost forgotten: the power of trust, the courage to face the world, and the promise that life could be better than they had imagined. The morning air was cool, carrying a gentle breeze through the narrow streets where Nira and Lumo walked with Eli. They had become more confident in recent days, slowly learning the patterns of human life and finding small ways to blend in. Lumo's laughter rang out as he chased leaves in the wind, and Nira's heart lifted with every smile she saw on her child's face. But that morning, an uneasy feeling pressed against Nira's chest. Something was different. Humans moved quickly, their eyes darting toward her and Lumo, whispering in tones that made her uneasy. Nira tried to keep her calm, but the unease only grew stronger as they approached the small marketplace where Eli had promised they could gather food and supplies. A group of humans blocked their path. Their faces stern, eyes narrowed. Nira's pulse quickened. She knew fear and misunderstanding could lead to danger. She instinctively held Lumo closer, her small hand clutching his tightly. "Excuse me," Eli said gently, stepping forward. "We mean no harm. We are just passing through." One of the humans, taller and more authoritative, shook his head. "You don't belong here," he said firmly. "We've seen strange things. People who look different should not wander freely. Leave now or we will make you." Nira froze. The words were harsh, filled with fear and judgment. She felt Lumo tremble in her arms and her heart ached. She had hoped humans could understand kindness, but she realized that fear of difference still existed. Eli moved closer to Nira, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "We are not dangerous," he said calmly. "Please give them a chance to see that." But the humans did not listen. They stepped forward, forcing Nira and Lumo to retreat. Nira's mind raced. She had to protect her child, and she had to act carefully. If they panicked, they could be exposed and worse. Hurt. She took a deep breath, remembering all she had learned in these days of survival. Patience, trust, courage. And she knew that now, she needed to show both courage and truth. "Please," she whispered softly, her voice carrying a calm authority. "We only need safety, child. Afraid. No harm." The humans hesitated, confused by her strange phrasing but sensing the sincerity in her tone. Lumo clung to her side, his small eyes wide, filled with fear and trust. It was a moment of truth. Eli stepped forward beside her. "Look at her," he said firmly. "She is protecting her child. She is not dangerous. She is just like any parent trying to survive. Can you not see that?" The leader of the group stared at them for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. A small child standing behind the humans tugged at his mother's hand. "They look sad," the child said softly. "They just want help." The words, simple and innocent, changed the energy in the group. The humans lowered their tense stances, unsure how to react. Nira felt a small wave of hope. Perhaps understanding could come even in moments of fear. Suddenly a soft glow emanated from Nira's hands. It was a small natural energy she had inherited from her home planet, something that helped her sense danger and protect herself and Lumo. She did not fully understand it yet, but instinctively, she focused on keeping it calm and contained. The humans gasped at the faint light, stepping back in awe rather than fear. Nira's calmness and the glow seemed to show them that she was not a threat, only different. Eli smiled, noticing the effect. "See," he said softly. "Being different is not dangerous. It can be beautiful." The tension eased. The humans slowly retreated, allowing Nira and Lumo to continue. Nira felt her legs shake from relief and exhaustion, but Lumo's small hand in hers reminded her of why she had endured so much. Courage, patience, and truth had protected them today. They moved to a quieter street, and Nira sank to the ground, holding Lumo close. "Mama, scared," he whispered. "I know, little one," she replied gently. "But see, we survived. We are safe, because we stayed calm, because we trusted." Eli crouched beside them. "You showed bravery today," he said. "Not with weapons or strength, but with patience and courage. That is true power." Nira felt a warmth in her heart. For the first time, she realized that her differences were not a weakness. They could be a strength if used wisely and carefully. She had protected her child, shown kindness, and survived fear. And in the process, she had changed the way humans saw her, at least for today. As the day continued, Nira, Lumo, and Eli found a small garden behind a nearby building. The sun shone warmly, flowers blooming in quiet corners. Nira allowed herself a small moment to breathe and reflect. Lumo ran ahead, laughing as he chased a butterfly, and Nira watched him, tears of relief forming in her eyes. "This day, difficult," Nira said softly to Eli. "But we wake stronger now," Eli nodded. "Yes, every challenge teaches us something. Today you showed the world your heart. Tomorrow we will keep showing it." As evening approached, they returned to the small abandoned house. Nira tucked Lumo into bed, singing softly in her alien language. The song had carried them through so many nights of fear and uncertainty, and now it was a lullaby of triumph and hope. She looked at Eli, who was quietly cleaning up the small space. "Thank you for standing with us," she said. Eli smiled. "You did all the hard work. I only helped, but yes, we are together in this, always." Nira nodded, her heart full of gratitude. She understood now that trust and courage could create bonds stronger than fear. That night she felt a sense of peace she had not known in a long time. The world was still dangerous and humans were still wary of what they did not understand. But she knew that she and Lumo could face it together. And in that quiet moment, as Lumo slept and the wind whispered softly outside, Nira realized something important. Sometimes, survival was not just about finding food or shelter. It was about courage, kindness, and showing the world that even the smallest acts of trust and love could change everything. The night had tested them. Fear had come close, but hope had stayed stronger. And Nira knew that no matter what came next, she had the strength to face it. For Lumo, for herself, and for the bond they had built with someone who had chosen kindness over fear. Morning broke softly over the small, quiet street where Nira, Lumo, and Eli lived. The sun's gentle light reflected off the worn buildings, casting warm hues that seemed almost magical after the hardships of the past days. Nira watched as Lumo stretched and yawned, his small face full of curiosity and energy. For the first time in weeks, she felt a lightness in her chest, a quiet hope that maybe at last, they had found a place where they could truly belong. Eli had already gone to gather supplies for the day, but he had left a small note for them. Be brave. The world is better with kindness. Nira smiled softly, feeling gratitude for the human who had risked so much to help them. He had shown that friendship and trust could bridge even the greatest differences. Nira stepped outside with Lumo, holding his hand as they walked toward the small garden behind the building. Flowers bloomed quietly, their colors bright against the stone walls. Lumo ran ahead laughing as a butterfly landed on a nearby flower. Nira's eyes followed him and she felt a surge of warmth. This world, strange and unfamiliar as it was, had room for beauty, kindness, and life. Over the next few days, Nira began helping Eli with small tasks, sweeping, organizing, and tending to the little garden. She learned more about human life, the rhythms of their days, and the small joys they often overlooked. In return, Eli learned more about her world, the strange, soft music she hummed, the gentle gestures she used with Lumo, and the quiet strength she carried in every action. They were different, but together they built a small harmony that reminded Nira of her lost home. One afternoon, as they rested under the warm sun, a group of neighbors came to visit. Some were cautious, others curious. Nira felt her heart race as they approached, unsure if these humans would be accepting or fearful. Lumo stayed close to her side, his small hand gripping hers tightly. Eli stepped forward. They are friends, he said quietly. They mean no harm, just come to see. The neighbors hesitated but soon relaxed when they saw Lumo laughing and running to greet a small child among them. Nira watched quietly as humans and her child began to play together, realizing that kindness could break down walls faster than fear ever could. One woman approached Nira carefully, holding out her hand. You've been through so much, she said softly. It's good to see you safe. You are welcome here. Tears filled Nira's eyes, but this time they were not tears of fear or despair. They were tears of relief and joy. She nodded quietly. Thank you, grateful. That evening, as the sun began to set, Nira and Lumo sat by the small fire they had built outside with Eli nearby. The warmth and light reminded Nira of her old home, though it was different. Here the fire was not just warmth for the body, it was warmth for the heart, for trust and for hope. Today, we're safe, Nira said softly, watching Lumo smile as he roasted a small piece of bread over the fire. Tomorrow, maybe? Better too, Eli nodded. Yes, tomorrow can always be better, but only if we face it together with courage and kindness. Nira looked at him and realized how much she had learned in such a short time. She had learned that fear could be met with patience, that trust could be earned, and that even the smallest acts of kindness could change lives. She had learned that being different was not a weakness but a gift, something that could bring people together rather than push them apart. Night came, quiet and calm. Nira tucked Lumo into bed, singing softly in her alien language. The song had been their companion through every hardship, a gentle reminder that love could endure any challenge. Lumo's eyes closed slowly, his small body finally relaxed, knowing that he was safe, loved, and protected. Nira sat quietly beside him, her hand resting on his small shoulder. She thought about the first night they had arrived, cold and desperate with nowhere to go. She remembered the fear that had gripped her heart, the uncertainty of whether they would survive the world outside. And now here they were, safe, accepted, and beginning to belong. She whispered softly, "Little one. See, night, cold, but warmth. Found help, found hope, found." The words were simple, but they carried everything she felt. For Lumo, they were comforting. For Nira, they were a promise to herself that no matter what challenges came next, they would face them together. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the small community around them began to accept Nira and Lumo. Humans visited more often, bringing small gifts, sharing food, and asking questions about her world. Nira answered as best she could, sometimes in broken words, sometimes in gestures and songs. And slowly the people began to see not just the differences, but the heart and courage behind them. Lumo thrived in this environment. He played, laughed, and learned alongside other children, teaching them small games from his home planet. Nira watched him, her heart swelling with pride. He was her reason for surviving, her reason for courage, and now, he was a bridge between worlds, helping humans see that kindness and innocence transcended all boundaries. One evening, as they sat by the fire once again, Eli turned to Nira. "Do you remember the first night you whispered your plea?" he asked gently. Nira nodded, smiling softly. "Yes, scared, cold, but you said yes," Eli smiled back. And that yes changed everything. Nira looked at Lumo sleeping peacefully nearby and then at Eli. "Yes, everything changed," she whispered. "We are not alone anymore." The night was quiet, but it was filled with hope. Nira realized that life on this planet could be challenging, but it could also be filled with warmth, trust, and love. She had found strength she never knew she had, courage she had not realized existed, and a place where she and Lumo could belong. In the coming days, Nira and Eli continued to build their small home, their little community growing stronger. They laughed, worked, and shared stories, and slowly, Nira began to understand that life, even on an unfamiliar planet, could be filled with joy and possibility. And in the quiet moments when the world seemed still, Nira would hold Lumo close and whisper softly, "See, little one, one night, one act, can change everything, and this is only the beginning." The alien mother, once poor, desperate, and afraid, had found more than shelter. She had found trust, acceptance, and hope. The world had not changed overnight, but she had. And in that transformation, she had created a life where love and courage could flourish, where she and her child could finally call this strange new world home.